Genesis 25. Girls, we're turning to Genesis 25. Everybody find your spot. Genesis 25. Everybody turn there as quick as you can. Try to get going here. We missed last week, so this week we've got to make sure we're getting back into the groove of the flow of where we're going. Remember, we've been from Genesis 1 all the way up to Genesis 25. We are working on what's called the thread. Who can tell me what the thread is? Zach? The thread. When you hear the word the thread in the context of this Sunday morning, what comes? Does anything?
Thread yourself to God.
What?
Thread yourself to God.
No. You guys?
Watching God throughout the Bible.
Right, you're watching. Okay, where does the thread begin?
With my timeline.
No.
Exactly.
Exactly, Genesis 3:15. Listen, guys, we're going to go over this for a year and a half, okay? So clue into it. Listen, here's an example of how I teach. I teach in repetition because that's how we learn. My geography class, Lindsay and Catherine can attest to the fact that we did the very same quiz 4 days in a row. Okay? Now, if you took a quiz 4 days in a row that didn't change, do you think you could do good on it by the fourth time?
Probably not.
Abigail.
Depends on what.
You should be able to, is the answer to that question.
Okay.
Okay? If you care at all to learn anything, just by consequence of repetition, you can get it. If you'll just give yourself halfway to it, right? Now listen, I'm going to hammer this for a year and a half, or however long this goes, and you're going to walk away from this, whether you want to or not, having known what the thread is and where it starts, and all the people involved all the way through it. That's the consequence of repetition. Does that make sense? It just happens. It gets in there, right? That's why you have to be very careful what you're listening to, what you're watching, the things you're letting in here, because it's through repetition of information that it gets branded, especially the music that you're listening to. Be very, very careful what you guys are listening to. From age 16 to 19, the music that you listen to and its message is going to get branded upon you. Okay? It's a very, very critical time frame right here. You don't want to be listening to junk. Okay? So, that was for free. We're in Genesis 25 here. And we're traveling through the Bible following the thread. Genesis 3:15 started the thread. That was a word from God. It was a prophecy to Eve and to us. And he said that he's speaking to Satan. He says Satan, and he's speaking to Satan and all of us because the Bible is for us. But we get clued into this. He's saying to Satan, look, Lucifer, through this woman, Eve, I'm going to bring a seed or a son who's going to crush your head. You follow me, Tyler?
Yeah.
That's what the thread is. So when I ask you next week, you're going to have it, right? All right. That's what it is. Now, we talked about how if God's outside of time, which He is, and He's going to send Himself in the future at some point, He wants to build a platform underneath Himself so that when He does come as a human, Jesus does come as a human being and makes His way into the story of God on this earth, and when He plants His feet on the soil of earth and makes that statement, I am God, He wants to have something built underneath Him so He doesn't look like some crazy person who's come to make a claim like I'm God. He's come to fulfill words about Him that have come through time, a little at a time, building a stage underneath Him so that when He makes that great and mighty claim, which is a wild and crazy claim, that it's actually so, that He can back it up. Okay, that's why we're studying what we're studying. Now, what we looked at a few weeks ago is the fact that God selected Abraham, or a guy named Abram, I should say, and then took Abram in relationship and said, hey, walk with me, follow me, I want to reveal some things to you. And along the way, Abram stumbled into the faith of Abraham. Because after God took Abram and added Himself to him, with that H-E-H at the back of his name, Abraham, he added, which was his breath, the pneuma, the Spirit of God. After he added himself to Abram, making him Abraham, and himself to Sarah, changing the spelling of her name, he was going to bring about a supernatural thing, which was a supernatural son. In other words, God breathed upon Sarah's womb. She was barren and she was a senior citizen, which is two problems, one complicating the other. And she gives birth to a boy named Isaac. That's prophetically speaking about the supernatural seed that Genesis 3:15 talks about, which is Christ, that will come in the future. It was a foreshadowing of what's coming in the future. Again, building that stage underneath him. And this is the early stages of it. So, we got Abraham and Sarah, right? They have a son named Isaac. Isaac gets a wife named, who knows that name? We haven't gone over it, but you know it, right? Rebecca. He gets a wife named Rebecca. Now, today's story is going to focus on their children. Okay? So we're up to speed here. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about some other things today as opposed to just getting into the story. But first, we want to read it. And it's found in Genesis 25, and it's not really that long, so we're just going to kind of read this, all right? So y'all follow through. Genesis 25:19, okay? I mean, follow the words. Follow the words that I read. Don't go off into la-la land while I'm reading, okay? It's really kind of follow it. All right. Genesis 25:19 says this. Now these are the records of the generation of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. And the Lord answered him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it is so, why then am I this way? So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. And one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. When her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Now the first came forth red, all over like a hairy garment, and they named him Esau. And afterward his brother came forth with his hand holding on to Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. And the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a peaceful man living in tents. Now Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And when Jacob had cooked stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was famished. And Esau said to Jacob, please let me have a swallow of that red stuff there, for I'm famished. Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, first sell me your birthright. And Esau said, behold, I'm about to die. So of what use then is the birthright to me? And Jacob said, first swear to me. And he swore to him, and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank, and rose, and went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. All right, y'all follow this story. It's a powerful story, as all Bible stories are, because it works. I mean, it works. It's the truth. And we do these types of mistakes every single day. And it's the ones of you who clue into this. This is kind of the path that splits, and you go one way or the other. This is a powerful, powerful, true story that applies to your life today. So let's take a look at this first. The lesson used this, and I've spoken to some of you guys, but I want to start off with it just to remind you of what this is, okay? This is the story of a great inheritance. Okay? Athena Onassis Roussel is the granddaughter of Aristotle Onassis. Onassis was a Greek billionaire and was married to former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy until his death in 1975. Why does this matter? Okay, good question. In 1988, when she was 3 years old, Roselle's mother passed away, making her the sole heir to her grandfather's billion-dollar estate. Trustees managed the money until 2003, when on her 18th birthday, Roselle received her inheritance. The inheritance was valued at an estimated $2.7 billion. Crazy, right? A billionaire at 18 years old. So here's the question. What would you do if you inherited $1 billion? Right? Now, what $1 billion does for you is gives you lots of options, right? All of a sudden, doors swing wide open for you. Everywhere, all the way around you, you have opportunity and options, and you've got the fuel to go through any of those doors. And you're going somewhere, right? Money just makes you more of what you are in this world. And I wanted to share that with you just to give you an idea of what inheritance looks like. Because we can all kind of understand that, right? You just inherit this massive amount of wealth. Okay? Now, in the context of our story though, see, Abraham comes into a relationship with God Almighty. They enter into a covenant. Remember that? We talked about the covenant quite a bit. And walking through the terms of the covenant, the blood covenant that was cut, the Baruch. Right? Now, what does that covenant mean? It means that Abraham gets everything that God is and has. And God gets everything that Abraham is and has. Right? Now, who came out better in that deal? You think so? You think it was Abraham? God didn't come out richer because Abraham came to us with him? I'm trying to stress a point. Yes, Abraham is the one that got the better end of the deal. Right? I mean, it's God Almighty. Y'all realize this? It's what I think we don't get. We're really short-circuited on the fact that who we're dealing with, who we're in a relationship with. We really are. We're not really waking up to who it is that has said, hey, I want to give you access to who I am and all that I have to give you. He is more than a billionaire, right? Is God more than a billionaire? You can't put a number on it. He is the source of all life and power and knowledge. He's got it all. And He says, hey, I want to give you who I am. I want to come in a relationship with you. Okay? So in terms of Miss Onassis, or Roselle, who got a whole lot of money, which we can begin to calculate a little bit, we cannot calculate what God wants to give to us, and we can't calculate what He gave to Abraham. Right? But that's what He did. He came into a relationship. He said, hey, I'm going to run through you, Abraham, and touch the world. Okay? I'm going to bless you immensely because of the relationship that you have with me. You're going to be blessed more than you could possibly imagine. And that is absolutely what happened. We talked about the descendants that call and claim Abraham as father. The massive impact he's made on this globe. The whole thing came through that original covenant. So, if you're talking about Abraham, who's going to then pass on that inheritance to his progeny, so Isaac just got all of that downhill, just like Miss Roselle did not a thing for that $2.7 billion. Isaac did not do a thing to receive the inheritance that's coming downstream from Abraham, his father, from God ultimately to Abraham, down through Abraham into Isaac. He just said, hey, I'm a lucky guy. How blessed am I to receive such wealth? And so he does. He takes on title, deed, he gets the double blessing, which it doesn't really matter because he was the only one from Sarah. So he gets it all, right? He's the sole, it's on the title deed. It is Isaac, nobody else, carrying all this. So when Isaac and Rebekah have sons, that inheritance is coming downhill once again. It's gonna hit the firstborn. Now, who was born first? Was Esau born first?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not, you just have to read it, it's all. Like this one came out first.
Right there.
Is that gonna some hidden message?
No, there's no mystery in that one, just he was born first. But the second one came out, because they were twins, right? The second one came out, you know, twins don't come out side by side. That would have hurt really bad. One has to come first. But here's what happened. The second one comes out, and what was he doing when he came out? He's holding on to his heel. Now, what does that say? It says, "Me first. I want." He's got a hold of him. It's like they were now, and we already know from, because she's having a terrible time carrying these kids. It's like they're in there, purr, 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 purr. You know, I'm going out first. No, I'm going out first. No, I'm going out first. And then they're fighting it. Okay, so y'all picture this. Because she's having a really hard time with pregnancy, and so much so that she says, "God, what is going on? I thought this was like a blessing that I'm pregnant now, because my husband prayed for me, and we got this huge inheritance that these kids are going to inherit, and I thought this was all great. So why am I having such a hard time?" And God says, "Well, the two kids are duking it out in there. They both want the blessing." Okay? That's what we're trying to think through. So when they come out, here comes Esau first. I won. Maybe he was the manlier of the two and won the fight. It was that suplex, right before the birth, the suplex.
Okay.
Jacob said, "Okay." Jacob heads out. He's out first, but he says, "No!" Grabs hold of the heel, comes out. Y'all follow this? They're both wanting some things for very different reasons, though. Okay, and that's what we've got to look at. Today we're going to be looking at appetites. Our appetites. What motivates us? What are we wanting from life? What are we after? So here he comes. Esau first. Jacob clinging to the heel. Okay, they've been in a big fight. It's like America and Russia was in there, going at it. Two countries is what the Bible says. But what does God tell Rebekah about the two? Y'all remember? You might want to look at it. What does God tell Rebekah about the two boys? Okay, so Rebekah has some inside information here, right? If she's looking at these two boys, God said the younger one is going to be the man. Right? So Rebekah knows this right out of the gate. She knows something about these two boys that nobody else knows, because God told her that the younger one, the one that came out clinging to the heel, was going to take the blessing, and that the older one was going to serve him. Now, what do you think that did to Rebekah's heart concerning these two kids? Okay, it would make sense that you would favor the one that's going to be greater. Just from a human standpoint, from a human perspective, that's what you would typically do. Also, we find out in the story that Esau was a real man's man, right? He was not especially handsome. He had hair all over him, and he was red. And he was sort of Neanderthal-like. That's what I picture. Who?
Red Skull. I'll tell you.
The red dude. You're right. Yeah. Maybe so, except with hair. Okay, so even up there. So he's a man's man, and it says he was a mighty hunter. He liked to go out in the field, gone for days, kill, track and kill his prey, bring him back. He's like a man's man, right? And Isaac loved that, because Isaac's a guy, right? So he's like, "Yes, my son, my strong son, he'll whip anyone. I love him. I like his smell. I like all about him." Right? Whatever. So you've got Esau, who's a man's man. He is daddy's son. I mean, they've got a tight relationship. And then you got Jacob, who's a mama's boy. Says he was a peaceful man and he liked to hang out in the tent with mom and cook. Okay? So y'all see the two types here. So it worked out well for Rebecca because, hey, Rebecca evidently has a real understanding about what it is that the blessing is that Isaac got and that she married into, and she wants to prepare this son and get him positioned properly to receive it. Okay? Now here's the problem. Do y'all remember what the problem was with Abraham and Sarah when they were working with the promise of having a son? Do y'all remember the issues they ran into? As far as making it happen, could they make it happen?
Sure.
Not by themselves.
Not by themselves, but what did they do trying to make it happen?
Pray.
Right. Remember, Sarah had a hamburger helper idea.
What?
Hamburger helper.
I love that.
Oh, that's good.
It's good.
If you add stuff to the meat and you make it something.
Oh.
This is man's plan. Remember, you got trusting in the Lord. No, first it's my own understanding, what I know to do. And you got trusting in the Lord, which is it's a difficult thing to do, to go from your own understanding, what you can produce, getting into trusting in the Lord, or you're vulnerable. You don't have any power here. You got to trust that He'd do it. That's a difficult thing. And Abraham and Sarah struggled with that. And so here we go with Rebekah struggling with that. And Jacob, both of them. Because here's the promise, it's coming downhill. And God said to Rebekah, hey, the younger is going to serve, or the younger is going to rule over the older. In other words, Jacob's going to get the blessing. And Rebekah's like, well, I better help God with that, because He needs help. Y'all see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't need help.
Okay, and we'll get more into this tomorrow. But all of us do this, guys. Listen, this is why you don't want to miss this. You don't want to read this and go, oh, silly Rebecca. Silly Sarah. Why would she hatch up such a plan to help God? We try to help God every day with His promises. And you will. The more you walk with Him, you'll find out how you want to bring in your own understanding with His and make it happen. Because we all do that. And the difference maker is that you learn to lay that down and start going with Him, trusting in His promise and letting the power of God do what only the power of God can do, God's way. And when we get into the doing it with God or adding our hamburger helper in there, we get in trouble. We mess it up. Okay, so let's look at this, how Rebekah did this. Okay, she kind of schemes along with Jacob and definitely helps him along here. Okay, so we got this situation here where you got Esau coming in from the field and he was famished. And Esau said to Jacob, please let me have a swallow of that red stuff there, for I'm famished. Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, first sell me your birthright. Okay, now here's where we're going to stop for a second and try to get into the lesson of the day for ourselves, because it's so important. Okay. Esau's problem. Okay, let's look at Esau's problem for a second. Esau's problem was that he despised his birthright. Okay, we've already read that. He ends up selling it for a bowl of soup. Okay, so let's get back to this story here about Miss Roselle. If this could possibly be done, but it's not like this. That's why it's not as easy as this, although it is, and that's what I'm going to try my best to explain. If Miss Roselle could get in a situation where she had to choose a bowl of soup. How many of y'all had a bowl of soup? Everybody's had some soup in their lifetime? Okay, so you got a bowl of soup here, right? Everybody's had a bowl of soup. Y'all ever had a really good bowl of soup? Like, man, that's the best bowl of soup I've ever had in my life. All right, and I was hungry too, so that made it extra good. Okay, everybody has a memory like that. Okay, you got this bowl of soup and you're really hungry, and then over here you got a stack of cash equaling $2.7 billion. Okay, and so in that moment you get to choose, the really, really good bowl of soup, the best soup you ever had in your life, and you're really hungry, or the $2.7 billion in cash. Now, which one would you choose?
$2.7 billion cash because you can go buy food.
I buy that.
Hey, you buy, yeah, right, when you got the money, but you forsake the soup, right?
Well, I mean, if you have $2.7 billion,
Yeah, you can buy
some more
you
soup.
can buy-
You don't get it right then, though.
You can buy like a Campbell's.
See, this is where it's not so easy to discern, because listen,
It's better.
you know your desire to buy that bass boat? It's all about desires. What desires are you giving life to? That desire to buy that bass boat is like the bowl of soup that you'll give yourself to.
Who's better than
Okay, now listen. This is the difficulty of and the trickery of how we're made and how we're wired. Y'all better for this? Jacob's problem was this. He coveted the birthright. He wanted it too much, but for the wrong reasons. Jacob wanted all the power and glory and wealth that was going to come through his dad. Esau just wanted the money to do what he wanted to do, which was live out in the wild and hunt, because that's what he liked, right? He didn't want to do all this statesman stuff and carry this big, pomp and privilege and all that goes with it. Sort of like if y'all know over in England where they still have the king and the queen system going on, although they're not, like politically, they're not lords over things, but they have a very high position of influence, and they represent a monarchy, or whatever it is over there, whatever it's called, I forget. And they're a big deal, right? What's the prince's name over there right now?
the little kid?
Prince who?
Prince. The Prince.
The one that isn't gonna, William. It's Prince William, right?
That's the baby. No, it's not.
No, that's his son. Prince William is the one that's in line right now. You got Prince Harry, who's younger, right? All right, y'all follow that? It would be very similar to this situation here. Prince William's going to inherit the title, King of England. That's a pretty big deal, right? What if William was like red and hairy and really manly and just like to be like Bear Grylls? It's Bear Grylls, right? Go out, do all the manly stuff out in the
American, yeah.
What if he just wanted to do all that and he's like, hey man, I don't want all this kingship and all this royal this and that. I don't want to do all of that. I just want to go out and hunt. What if that was the case? But he didn't want to give up the money that was going to come, just all the other stuff that comes with it. Y'all know what I'm saying? Because you got to hold your hand to give your life to that. You got to do what kings do to prepare to become a king. And then you got to be out there in the spotlight with everybody and act all kingly, and all the paparazzi going to, be all over you, and all the stuff that comes with it. Does that make sense? So what you're looking at is Esau wanted the money, yes, but he wanted the money so he could do whatever he wanted to do. Jacob just wanted all of the privilege, all of the money, he wanted the title, he wanted the kingship. Like, I want to be king one day. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And he coveted it. He wanted it for the wrong reason. So we're talking about two really strong desires here within these two boys, because all of us have desires, right? We're born with desire. And that's where it gets really tricky. We got to know what kind of desire we've got going in here. Here's the deal though, guys. God's promise to Abraham was this. In chapter 15, he says this to Abraham. He says, Abraham, I am thy shield and thy very great reward. Okay? I am. Now follow this, guys, because this is critical. God says, look, Abraham, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff. I'm going to give you a son. You're going to get very wealthy, and the whole world's going to be blessed through you. But I want you to catch this, Abraham. I am your very great reward. See, we so quickly look at what God can give us, and the stuff, and the things, and the promotion, and the power, and, because of God, through me, I look good. Right? And that's just human. That's what we've got to work against in our relationship with God. Once we get online with Him, and once we say, God, me and you, and I want you all the way, once we make that decision, that's what we have to understand. God Himself is the reward, not anything else. Everything else is a secondary reward. There's a lot that comes with it. But if you get that mixed up, If you get the stuff over God Himself, you are in a mess. You're going to blow it. You're going to suffer for that. And so God's telling Abraham, look, Abraham, I am your exceedingly great reward, not the stuff. And not what I'm going to give you, although I'm going to give you a lot. Keep this in mind, Abraham. I am the reward. And so what you want to do as a son of God or a daughter of God is say, God, I just want you. I want to keep it pure. I need you. And I want to see you for who you are. And I just want to love you and worship you because you're worthy of it. Not for what you could give me. Not for anything, just because that's the truth. You are God. And I want you more than I want anything else. And you have to keep your heart in check over that, because that'll creep in. Those desires will creep in. And that's what these two boys did not do. Okay? So with that, let's look at our appetites here. For we're going to stop the lesson and in just a minute. And but real quick, before I do that, y'all see these things up here? Appetites. The definition for an appetite is a strong desire or a liking for something. Okay? Desire is, in the Greek, it comes from D is of, sire is to father something. Okay? Biologically, physically. Desire is of the father. That's what it means in Latin, if you break down the etymology of the word. Who's your daddy? That's what it's about. Who's your daddy? Okay? Now you got to get the serious side of this. I know you can be funny. It's like my kids. You say the word "but" around them. They're done. You say the word "but," it's over. Right? So don't be like a 5-year-old. Okay? I'll keep it in check. Okay? Who's your daddy is what this about. Desire. Now, when I say who's your daddy, what am I talking about? The Bible there's two daddies in the Bible. Who's the two daddies in the Bible? God the Father. Who's the other one?
No, that's the son.
The Son is the Son.
Sorry.
Who's the other one?
God's father.
Satan. The father of lies. Now guys, this is a big deal because both of those two fathers in the Bible are producing. They're producing children all the time. That's what we find here, guys. It's only one or the other. You're from one or you're from the other. You're in communion with one or you're in communion with the other. That's why it's so scary. This is really real. Like it's really real that God the Father is a father who wants offspring. And the father of lies does everything he can to mimic God the Father in producing offspring. See, that's what Jesus said to the Pharisees. He said, you are sons of the Father, but not God the Father of lies. You guys are sons of the father of your daddy is the devil, is what Jesus said to the Pharisees. That's a pretty big deal right there. Guys, that's scary. You don't want to laugh at that. That's a big deal. So desire is a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. This has to do with cravings. You know what cravings are like? To be desperate for or to covet. Okay? Now, 3 things that you need to know about appetites. Appetites, God created appetites. Okay, so they come from God. That means that they're good. Okay, they're not all bad. You have to be very careful that they're good. Remember, the fall twisted this whole thing. Sin distorted them. See, we're in creation, fall, redemption. In the fall, all of our appetites got distorted. So sin distorts your appetites. That's why you have to watch. The third is, they are never fully satisfied. Even your desire for God, which is a true and pure and holy desire, your desire for God will never be satisfied. That's why you have to stay in communion with Him. And He's like a river. He keeps feeding, fulfilling that desire. You have to stay linked up, because as soon as you unlink and get your heart onto something else, you're going to start feeding that. Because we were made to receive. You got to be receiving at all times. You got to be feeding desires and appetites at all times. You're going to do that. And that's why you got to keep a relationship with God keeps these things in check. Okay? Now let me hit these 2 and then we'll get into our other time. Your response to your appetites will determine whether you will fulfill God's will for your life or not. It all comes down to this, guys. This is a big big deal. To have awareness of it, to have understanding of it, and then to choose appropriately with wisdom is critical. Listen, guys, this is where I suffered. I suffered. I made the wrong decisions when I was your age over and over and over, and I suffered. I sold my birthright, or what God wanted to give me, for a bowl of soup over and over and over and over again. See, because it's not a one-time thing. You don't just do it once like the Bible says Esau did. You do it once and sell it. That's not the way it happens. What happens is you get that first bowl of soup and you're like, oh man, that was good. Man, that was good. And you lose sight of the promise. You lose sight. See, because there's some, we're going to talk about this, there's some physiological things that take place in your brain when you get focused on appetites. One of them is called focalism. There's physiological changes that take place in your brain that focus you on your desire and what you want. And when you get linked into that, it will short circuit all wisdom about your future. People do this every day. They sell their birthright. They sell where they're going in the future for something in the immediate. And this is where wisdom has to be lived out, and you got to take it seriously. Okay? The last thing is, how many of y'all like bullies? Anybody like a bully? Like, you like bullies that walk around and take people's lunch money, so to speak? Bully people into doing their will. Anybody like a bully? Nobody should. Listen, appetites will bully you into submission. It's simply this, guys. You will rule them or you will be ruled by them. It's one or the other. That's the way it works. These things in here, listen, when you're talking about appetites and desire, you see what I underline here? Strong. Not weak, strong. Stronger than you. Okay? That's why you have to work towards short-circuiting the strength that they bring to bear. You've got to channel them in the right direction so that they'll bring to bear good things in life, and you'll represent God in a powerful way. Okay, so